Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Keith Giffen I'm Not Dead Yet podcast. We're on episode 3, and here's the man himself, Keith Giffen.
Okay, how you doing? Get to this.
Okay,
Get to it.
So thank you very much for interrupting your Dead Island 2 gameplay.
That's right.
I know you've been looking forward to that game for quite a while.
Funny thing was, it just downloaded. I can play now. And okay.
Okay, so we're going to start. This week we're going to kind of continue from last week's episode. We got a lot of questions coming in about your run on Legion. So I figured there's so many questions that if we just did 1 or 2 a week, it takes so long.
Yeah.
So let's just see how many of them we can belt through.
All right.
When we hit the
quick answers, huh?
When we hit the half-hour mark, we'll bin it off.
All right.
So first question that we've got coming in comes from a former colleague, Tom Beerbaum.
Oh.
And Tom said, I've always sensed that you were instrumental in elevating Cosmic Boy from being one of the more bland and forgotten Legionnaires to being a vital foundational member.
Yeah.
Is that the case? And if so, what was it about the character that so stood out to you so much?
Yeah, I did give Cosmic Boy, especially when I rebooted the Legion my own way, the 5 years later Legion. Cosmic Boy was my favorite. I have no idea why. I mean, he wore a pink suit. Pink's not my favorite color. I don't know. Out of the original 3 Legionnaires, Saturn Girl was a bitch and Lightning Lad was an idiot. So Cosmic Boy was pretty much it. So Rock was the guy. And that just kind of continued on.
Okay. So with regards to Karate Kid, I know you said you didn't like him.
Karate Kid. Hate.
So the question came in, was he killed off because of the movie rights to the name Karate Kid, or was it just because you hated him?
Just because I hated him.
Okay.
The movie rights had nothing to do with it.
Now, obviously, when you started on Legion, it was already an established franchise within the DC world.
Pat Broderick was doing a real good job on it, as a matter of fact.
Did you ever get input or comments from prior Legion guys like Kurt Swan or others with regards to where you were going with it?
The only comment I got in the Legion was when I met Kurt Swan for the first time. I said I was doing the Legion, and he looked at me and said, "You must be insane," and walked off. It was not, look, the Legion was not exactly the most popular book to do then, because it was like 26 individual members, and you had to know the names and the planets they were from and how they looked, and half of the costumes they had were I'll say utter garbage. So I came on the Legion. I played nice for a while, and I decided I started changing costumes around until finally when I did the 5 years later Legion, I just did it completely my way.
All right, so speaking about that, the question came
Sounds
in,
really egotistical, doesn't it? Did it my way, but
so the question came in, what influenced the more adult run, and how did that come about?
wow. I don't know. I don't know if there was actually an influence on the adult run. I'm probably wrong, but I don't recall it right now. It was just a matter of trying to do something different. Actually, no, there wasn't an influence there. I looked at the Legion and I thought, well, they're teenagers. And they've been teenagers for close to 25, 30 years. So I just moved some of them up in age. And when you move them up in age, then you have to deal with development and all. And just, I aged them and gave them what I thought were unique personalities, but they were really just extrapolations of the personalities they were already given.
Okay, so one of the things about having so many characters in Legion, were there any characters that you really wanted to play with that you never got around to doing?
In the Legion? No, not really. The characters I wanted to play around with, I got my chance. I was on the Legion for quite a while, so if there were any obscure little characters that that I wanted to have something to do with, I mean, look, I even got to play around with Prody, who was just a Chameleon Boy's pet. He was a blob. So no, when I left the Legion, I kind of figured I killed Karate Kid then, so I thought, okay, there's no stone unturned. I can move on happy.
Okay, so speaking about your long term on Legion, Your artistic style changed radically during your run on Legion. What was the influence behind that?
Boredom. That's the thing. I was doing the Legion. I was doing it. Everyone seemed to like what I was doing in this style. And I guess I just got bored and I wanted to try simplifying it. Everyone calls it my Alex Toth period. It was just trying something different to keep myself interested in the book. And it didn't work out exactly like I thought, but kept me on a bit longer. I would have been gone quite a few issues sooner.
Okay. Now, forgive me with this because obviously I don't know this stuff from my earlier days. Were the changes that you made to Jan and Garth in 5 years later something you planned and wanted to do during the earlier run, or was that just something that came up when you started to do 5 years later?
For Rock, it was something I wanted to do I wanted to have a character lose his powers and yet still who he was. He belonged in the team. I wanted to show a normal person of at least Rock's caliber could exist in the Legion team. Other than that, it was just really screwing around. Element Lad, I don't take any credit for Element Lad's is he gay, isn't he gay, is he this, is he that, because that had been bumbling around in Legion fandom for years before I came on. And if people ask me right now, well, did you think Element Lad was gay? Did you play him as gay? It wasn't so much gay as he's the last survivor of his planet. So I'm figuring his equipment doesn't plug into anyone else.
Okay, so touching on something like that, what influenced the more adult run as you kind of went through your tenure on Legion?
I guess I was growing up.
When did that happen?
Yeah, I know. When did that happen is right. But I guess I would, I don't know. As I aged them, I couldn't keep their little teenage ideas with the Legion clubhouse and all like that. So I just had to think to myself, okay, they have this power or had this power, and they've been through the Legion of Superheroes. Now they're adults. Where do they go from here? And I think I even had, if I remember correctly, there was an event that happened during the period, during the 5 years that I jumped the Legion, wherein the Legion had been disbanded. So I actually had each of the Legionnaires, or Rock at least, and Chameleon Boy, Reap, going around trying to reform the Legion, but trying to reform the Legion as less of a snotty little kids club and more of a force for good. And sometimes, you know, they're aliens, so the good was kind of questionable.
Okay. Now I know that we mentioned who your favorite Legionnaire was. For those who I can't remember off the top of my head the name of it.
Rock. Cosmic Boy, Rock.
Okay, so
Thank you.
do you have a kind of a split loyalty between the characters? And who was your favorite to write for? Maybe to draw, was that any different, or was it just that same character?
It was that same character. Of course, the easiest character to draw was Wildfire, no face.
Okay. This question makes no sense to me, so I'm hoping it does to you.
Okay.
I've just got Timberwolf ?
Well, unfortunately, I can't do Timberwolf ? Because I seeded Timberwolf off to I believe it was Al. I think it was Al Gordon. I could be wrong on that, where he left the Legion and sort of branched off into his own book for a while and his mutations. So he became an individual character, and after a while, I had nothing to do with him.
Because then they followed up with a question. I think they must have just hit enter before. Because then they follow up with, is there anything you'd like to share about the Timberwolf / Block friendship?
It was there when I came on board, and I just played around. I just kept it going. The Timberwolf block thing happened before my time, and I thought it was interesting. It was a pretty decent idea, so I just ran with it.
Okay, so this is a longer question. So forgive me. So in respect to Darkseid, in retrospect, Darkseid was obvious, except it wasn't.
No, it was not obvious because I'll go into that later. But go ahead.
Okay, so it was obvious, except it wasn't. Why do you think so many characters who should still have been around in the 30th century were largely ignored by the previous Legion creative teams?
That's a really good question. I can't really speak for them. I would think that the Legion, being 1,000 years in the future, it was pretty hard to reel in the Joker. And I remember when Paul wanted to bring Darkseid in, Darkseid was not a villain that was really that popular. People were kind of surprised that the Legion was going to bring him in. Even though Kirby's New Gods were wildly popular, the characters had been kind of knocked about and they were laying fallow. So when it came to Darkseid, it was pretty much, look, here's a character that's not overused and we can do whatever we want because nobody's doing anything with him. So we just plunged ahead. There was no there was no second guessing the character. Yeah, I think that's it. A lot of these things, it sounds like the answers are really almost too simple, but that's pretty much what it was. Somebody would ask me, well, why did you do this story? And I go, oh, here. Somebody once asked me one time why in the middle of an ambush bug story, out of nowhere, I had him being chased by elephants. And my honest response was, I felt like drawing elephants.
I think anything goes in ambush bug.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so was the sequel to the Great Darkness saga in Legion 5 years later an absurdist play inspired by Samuel Beckett?
No, it was Al Gordon's idea 100%, and I just ran along with it. I had nothing to do with it. He had this, I considered the Great Darkness to be sort of like the one story that was in Violet. You don't do a sequel to that. That was a damn good story, and it covered all the bases. And Al had an interesting twist on it. So we went through it. So if it comes to questions about the Quiet Darkness, it was called. If anyone has a question about the Quiet Darkness, you're better off walking Al Gordon in the art to me, because I just drew what he told me to.
Okay. So were there ever any editorial input on your changes in art style while you were working on the Baxter series or 5 years later?
No. Nope.
And if there had been?
I just moved on to another book.
Where are we looking here? On a follow-up to an earlier question, what were the behind-the-scenes battles between the creative team with regards to decisions when moving forward with 5 years later?
5 years. 5 years.
Ago, so you can.
Yeah, 5 years later was one of those projects that I thought would be kind of interesting, and the amount of venom and resistance, not only from fandom, but from the DC offices themselves, was just astonishing. One of the big things was, how could you do this to name of character? And I had to remind them, the name of character doesn't exist. I'm not beating your daughter. I'm not doing horrible things to your kids. Look, they're comic book characters. But you killed Karate Kid. Oh, really? You want to bring him back? Next issue, we'll just go, hey, Karate Kid shows up. I feel better now. Okay, we'll move on with the story. It's a comic book. There are certain things that everyone understands about a comic book. And this trend, and it was really strong during my latter days in the business, of just taking it so seriously and trying to play it. Well, we want to play it like real life. And I go, why? But you show me in real life the guy who can fly, or the guy who can shoot rays out of his eyes, or with Dark Knight and The Longbow Hunters by Mike Grell. These were comics that came in and took a different take on Batman or Green Arrow or different characters. I don't think either of these creators ever thought that their version of the character, their vision was suddenly going to be the one that everyone was having to follow. So my attitude was just, I always told people I'm going to come on the book. I'm going to tell my stories. I'm going to do weird stories. I'm going to do weird things with the characters. You're not going to agree with them all. But if I'm going to leave the book, I will leave the book in the same condition it's in when I came on board.
So it's not like you take Justice League, kill the main characters, and then leave the book.
No, I could kill them and explain that the killing was fake or whatever. And if Batman, Superman, The Flash, and Green Arrow were Justice League at that point, when you inherited the book, they were there at that point. I wasn't trying to score points. I just wanted to tell stories that kind of amused me, and I have a morbid sense of story.
So as a follow-up, this is my follow-up question. Who gets more ass hurt when things go wrong or things get changed in comics? Is it the creative team behind the scenes, or is it the fans?
Wow. I'm kind of prejudiced, so there's a part of me wants to see the creative team. Yeah, I went through that, but no.
I think this is what this whole podcast is about.
Any of these me being pissed off because I don't know, I wanted to have a character do a certain thing or get married or have a kid or just do something with the character is really kind of trivial when it comes down to the long-term reader. Some of these readers have been following these characters for 20, 30 years. And then coming in, I was guilty of this too. There was certain arrogance back then. Somebody's coming aboard and going, yeah, all that stuff you read, all those stories that you read all those 30 years, they're gone. We're going to start over. So I think when it comes to comics and change, the fans have the short end of the stick because we do a book and we want the fans to love it. And we turn around and change it.
All right, so back on to Legion. That was a good answer. Thank you. Someone posted an image of an unused character from a Legion model sheet called Brottlebex. Yeah, you can have a look up and see it. I'll edit it in.
Oh,
what was the story behind that? The census stealer.
I have no idea. I was looking at that drawing and I thought I did that, and I can recognize certain things, but the odds are it was probably something that maybe Paul or usually Paul Levitz came to me and said, I have an idea for this character, and I did a sketch for it, and it just never happened. Okay. I don't recall the character ever being in the Legion of Superheroes, actually.
So staying as ultra nerdy or something like that, why did you change the Legion's mission monitor board symbols from your original design to the newer version?
I was doing the book. I felt it was easier for me that way. I still think that my designs had a little bit of a little more modern kind of a twist. That was just me messing around and trying to make the book as much a part of what I like to do as possible. It was probably unfair in hindsight.
So staying on the same person, they asked 3 questions on this chat from your Facebook. It's also interesting to hear about drawing multiple books at the same time. I think you were doing Legion and Omega Man at the same time. Yeah, Legion. Do you ever find that there's a crossover in the styles or the characters?
No, what I find doing the 2 books is that I did the Legion, I did Omega Man. As I was doing it, one book Legion broke out as my favorite, and Omega Man suffered for it because hey, I have a great idea. I can't do that in Omega Man. I'll do it here in the Legion. And it got to the point with Omega Man, I was doing breakdowns. I was doing vanilla kind of. Yeah, it's it's good that I got off Omega Man. I was no good for it.
Okay, this might or might not upset Paul Levitz, depending on how you answer the next question. So Legion Annual 1 is, in this person's opinion, the most remarkable one-shot stories ever told. The pacing, the art, the suspenseful, it captures an emotional level. This guy's often reread it and it still hold up all these years later. Now, what was the process behind that? Did you work from a detailed plot?
Paul gave me the plot and I drew it. That Legion Annual, that first Legion Annual, I drew it. It's all Paul. The ideas, the concept, the computer, the new computer character, that was all. He just came to me, plunked the plot down, and I went home and drew it.
Okay, so the final part of the question is this more Giffen or more Levitz, or would you call this a true collaboration?
More Levitz. More Levitz.
Okay, Dream Girl became one of the greatest characters during your first Legion run. And this guy was never interested in her, but she became one of his favorite Legionnaires. Did she grow on you as a character?
No, I still think she's ridiculous.
Yeah, because he said that he had the impression that neither you nor Paul liked her initially.
Well, we didn't like her initially. You guys were the ones who voted her in. I don't know. It must have been some weird thing where you thought, well, they vote for the Legion leaders. Let's vote for Dream Girl and see if they'll really do it. And we did it. And it was just, I did not have, I was not fond of Dream Girl's tenor as leader because of her, it's like, okay, leader, what do we do? Wait, I'll activate my powers. I've got to take a nap. No.
Okay, so with regard to that comment you made there, as a writer and a creator, how much influence, if any, does your audience actually have?
Element Lad in the Legion, a lot. Element Lad was rumored for ages to be a gay character. And we stuck with it in our own way. We stuck with it. So it's like, look, Legion had I'm gonna really age myself here. APPAs. If anyone out there knows what an APPA is, it's a bunch of guys fans who get together and write little itty bitty like
fan fiction.
Or fanzines, and they staple them together, and everyone gets together and staples theirs together, and you get this huge stack like this, and you can read through everyone's opinions. And Element Lad was always in these APPAs I was reading. He was always the gay character. But DC was backing off. They weren't really committing one way or another. And George, I believe it was George Perez, who gave the Legionnaires their first costume redesigns. And he had a real interesting pink and black Element Lad costume, because Element Lad's original costume was white and pink. And so I just, like, I kept the idea that the character was gay, and even the look of the character. I think I gave him, he had an E on his chest, and I think I gave him the interlac E that I figured out. But I guess you could say that out of all the characters in the Legion, Element Lad was probably the one most influenced by earlier artists, but especially fandom. Element Lad was a character that we did just for the fans that way.
And through the rest of your career, obviously, books are successful, books will bomb. You'll get abuse for doing characters that people have always seen one way or a different way. How has public opinion impacted the way you draw and continue on a book?
It hasn't. I knew damn well that not everyone's going to like what you do. Not everyone's going to like what you do. And as long as I liked what I was doing and felt that I was doing a fair job, in other words, just doing my job and putting it out there and doing the best I could, well, I can't control it. I'd love it if everyone loved my work, but no. I mean, I've taken a real drubbing sometimes, but this is part of doing the work. Yeah. So although I will admit, I really think that the fans I ran into at conventions, even if they didn't like my stuff, all of them, just, they wouldn't come out and go, I hate your stuff. They'd pull you aside and go, well, this and that and the next thing. They were extremely polite and just, extraordinarily well behaved.
You should see what they say about you on the internet.
Well,
All right, so this is the last question from this particular set. And this one's an internal workings question. Did you and Paul Levitz work full script on Marvel method on Legion? This person said, I've heard some of the creative teams at DC would work Marvel method instead of full script.
Yeah, eventually the Marvel method became the method, but for Paul, I would say up until the end of The Great Darkness, I was working off of full scripts from Paul. And then after that, I don't know whether it was if he trusted me that much or that he was being promoted up in the company and had just an incredible amount of responsibility. And as much as he loved doing the Legion, he realized he eventually had to leave it. So I have a funny feeling that at times Paul was sort of gearing me to be the guy to take over the Legion. And it worked. Even though I left for a period and I came back, I got to do the 5-year later Legion, which is one of my favorite projects.
So, trying to put you on the spot with regards to all of the creative talent you work with on Legion, who was your favorite person to collaborate with?
Wow. It's mostly I think Carl Kiesel, definitely. Carl Kiesel was an extraordinary inker. Colleen Doran did some fill-in work that was really excellent. There are not, I don't think there are any people that I interacted with on the Legion that I really disliked. There was one I had issues with, and I'm not going to mention the name out of respect for him because it's not his fault. It was me. It was just my opinion.
Well, that ruins my next question then.
What's your next question?
Who did you hate working with on the Legion? No, I mean, look, if you've got one that you
editors.
Who?
Basically, I had good editors on Legion, Karen Berger and Mike Fury and stuff like that. But I also had editors on the Legion who, I pushed them into traffic. But that's the same on any book. You're going to have good guys and bad guys. But all told, I said the Legion was a good experience, not as good as Justice League, but the Legion was a really good experience for not only learning how to do the craft, but for the fun stories. Because it was Legion that, I worked out all the, it's not good back then, but I worked out all the bugs. So that, when I finally did do the Justice League, I was more of a comic book plotter or more of a comic book person than I was when I did the Legion.
So we'll come back to another question from me. Because obviously I live with you. I've known you for over a decade, but we don't really talk comics that much. When you see a lot of the things that you did in the 70s and 80s coming back to appear in movies, obviously Rocket would be the one that everyone thinks of. You've got Blue Beetle's coming out very soon. You've got, if you look at that Guardians of the Galaxy, I think you created the prison system.
The kiln,
The kiln. You've got, obviously, there's talk about a Lobo movie coming out. How does it make you feel as far as the health of the industry is concerned that they're dredging 40, 50-year-old ideas up in movies and not using new stuff?
It's not healthy. But I'm glad that they like stuff that I did. I'm glad that what I did back then, they looked upon as being a worthy springboard to go for something better. But in all honesty, I've never given a damn about my characters going into a film. Rocket Raccoon, Mel had my daughter Mel had to drag me into the theater to see the movie. The Blue Beetle. If I miss it, I missed it. It's not a big deal for me because basically I did the character, I did the way I wanted to. So why would I go to a movie theater and be aggravated by somebody who's not doing it my way? And that's there's a little bit of that involved, when you're sitting there going, that's not the way I meant it to be. Or
so let's take that one step further. Obviously, at the moment, there's a lot of talk about Jason Momoa leaving the Aquaman franchise and becoming Lobo.
Yeah.
If asked, would you be prepared to provide creative input as far as the character's concerned?
Yeah, if asked, yes, I'd be more than happy to do that. But there's a big difference. There's a difference between giving the creative advice. In other words, well, would Lobo do this or do that in this circumstance? But if they're like here, I'd be more than willing to do it for Jason Momoa, and I'd be more than willing to do it for whoever was in Blue Beetle, the actors in the movies who want to get the character right. I'm more than happy to talk about it. I will not give any ideas to them, But when it comes to the directors and the producers, they go fuck themselves. I mean, why are you asking me? You did it. You agreed to do the movie without me being involved. Why are you coming to me now? You're just going to screw it up.
So let's touch upon very touchy subject, and then we'll let you get off with it. Okay. Go back to Dead Island. James Gunn is now in charge of the movie franchises at DC.
Yes.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing. He knows what you can't deny what he did with the Marvel characters. Maybe it wasn't the comic book authentic, but it was close enough. And it's at least maybe to me, maybe I could be wrong. I could be a complete moron, but I really think that what he did at Marvel showed that he respects the characters. If he respects the characters, that means he's respecting the creators who worked on the character. Bring that to DC. That'd be great. That'd be really great. But gotta show me.
Okay, so we've gone over Legion. We've gone over Legion in depth. In the next episode, we'll go over your Omega Man run. We'll talk about
Omega Man run. Yeah, I walked off. The end. Okay, what are we talking about next?
About the big guy behind you. I think that might take 2 episodes up.
Yeah.
Before we go though, obviously no podcast will be complete without an anecdote. So one of the questions that came in randomly is, who is the worst celebrity you've met in a professional environment?
Muhammad Ali.
Tell the story.
Muhammad Ali. I was New York when the New York Comic Con was actually in New York instead of and I was exiting the con and wasn't really paying attention. He was entering the con, and we slammed into one another. Just literally slammed into one another. And he was like walking into an oak tree. I staggered up. He grabs me by the arm, picks me up like a chimpanzee on his tiptoes next to him, and goes, "I could kill you with a breath." I figured that was pretty bad. That was pretty rough with the Muhammad Ali. Although, again,
but
I've been called an asshole by Mel Gibson.
Don't go into Mel Gibson. That's going to be a little podcast, but that's what we're at the time to talk. But you have track record for bumping into famous people.
Yeah. Yeah. My most famous bump was up at Marvel Comics, my first tenure at Marvel. And I was exiting the office, and I go around the corner, the blind corner, and I was kind of pissed off. So I came on the blind corner a bit too fast, slammed into this guy, and we both went down. His papers went all over the place. And the guy swearing at me and cursing at me and calling me an asshole and stuff like that. And I realized now, back then I didn't know him from Adam because Star Wars hadn't hit yet. But I was basically being sworn at and cussed at and being by George Lucas. So with that, George Lucas, Mel Gibson, Muhammad Ali. I just don't have much luck with the talent. No.
Okay. Look, it's been a fantastic episode. We got a lot of questions answered for the fans of Legion. So hopefully they'll get off my back on your Facebook. We look forward to getting another episode in the can very soon. We'll be back to our Wednesday lunchtime schedule now that I'm not on vacation. But for this week, thank you very much for stopping by, and we'll catch you later.
Okay, take care.